Hey guys, this is Jim Fields from Greater China Tech, and today we're going to be doing a very special episode interviewing Rui Ma. She's got a very interesting story. She spent some time in the investment banking world and also in 500 startups, working with a lot of interesting startup companies. And recently, she's published a very interesting report that we'd like to talk about today, which is called DouYin, Much More Than Just China's TikTok. So today we're going to have the chance to interview her via Zoom because she's based in the United States, and have a conversation about her work and this recent report. So I hope you guys enjoy. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. You know, the purpose of our show has always been to create a bridge and connection between the technology world and what's happening in China and also what's happening in the US and more specifically in the Bay Area, which is also where I'm personally from. And we've been like a big fan of your work, been following you on Twitter and also your podcast, and you produce such awesome content. So we're really, really happy to have you on today. So thank you so much. Maybe just for people who don't know you, if we could give a little intro, that would be really helpful.
I was born in China, grew up in the States, in Silicon Valley, studied engineering, so went into finance, like you said, just started doing investment banking here in Silicon Valley. I graduated right after the dot-com bust. So things were very, very different then. Tech wasn't quite so sexy. And out of just personal reasons, I ended up moving to China in 2007. And while I was there, I was very lucky to see the rise of China tech. And I was very lucky to work in both later stage growth equity as well as early stage.
First kind of key question is, the title of your report being DouYin, much more than just China's TikTok. So kind of what are the differences or kind of top line summary of the differences and similarities between these two very popular apps?
So, well, first of all, DouYin is slightly bigger than TikTok. My understanding is DouYin has close to 700 million daily active users now. So while the core logic, think of it as being the same, as being personalized recommendations of short videos, the DouYin has a much richer feature set because it's been around longer, but also because it has a much stronger live streaming component. And that's kind of because of the ecosystem in China where live streaming is much more popular. Another thing they had was they really caught on to the fact that having special effects and filters was really, really important to apps. Yep. They looked at the top apps of the time and the was shared in common. So they really caught on to that.
Yeah, and it seems like that recommendation algorithm and engine is like such an important part of the story. I guess, how do we compare and contrast, the methods of search-based content discovery versus recommendation? And what is it about ByteDance and their recommendation tools and abilities that's so unique and special?
Machine learning, what happens is that the more data you collect, the more fine-tuned your algorithms can become. So Google also has components of AI in its search engine and the fact that it has all this data. However, for DouYin, there's many more formal channels. So number one, the live streaming is a lot more gamified. So it's just like probably a lot easier for you to make money because there are all these leaderboards and all these functions that allow your fans to spend more money.
Cool. And I guess, an outsider might say these apps are coming from the same company. Why not just have the same features across both? I guess, and also if I was a content creator, I would say, well, hey, why isn't there more robust e-commerce functionality on TikTok that I can monetize? So is it a strategic choice to limit the features available in TikTok, or is it a function of different needs for different markets, or why is that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I think the market dynamics are different in China, right? Live streaming e-commerce, for example, is something that really Alibaba started back in 2016 and poured a lot of resources into. It wasn't like a hit from the get-go, right? It took some time for users to get used to this behavior and also for brands to get used to selling this way. So you really need different stakeholders to buy into this vision, the platform, the brands, as well as live streamers themselves, and of course the ultimate end consumers.
So two final questions, one that is hard-hitting and serious and one that is fun. We'll start with the fun one. Are you a TikTok user? And if so, what content do you consume on TikTok?
I am a TikTok user. I actually thought about creating content on there as well. The then I thought it would be too depressing not to get any views from my China tech content on TikTok. So I decided against it. I primarily just, let's see. I think because I started using it when Trump was still in power. So yeah, I think because I started using it heavily during the election year, my content is now a little bit skewed towards political humor.
Right.
But I'm slowly starting to push it back into just like funny pet videos.
Okay.
So it's a weird combination right now. And then of course I really do enjoy going. What should I say? Like I do really enjoy watching just like whatever is popular as well. So I will go to the front page with the popular hashtags and just see what other people are watching as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. So I guess one thing, I thought the conclusions at the end of your piece were really interesting. And one of them talks a little bit about the difference of, the way that Chinese apps work versus the way that Western apps work, and also how Chinese apps can extend the user journey instead of just doing one or even a few things super well. So that conclusion, can you unpack that a little bit in relation to DouYin and also in relation to ByteDance, some of the apps we've talked about today? Because for people in the West, they may not understand this insight you have.
Yeah, so my maybe a really simple is when you think about for example, when you consider YouTube, which you use YouTube, right?
Yep.
YouTube does have some creator tools, but it doesn't really, right? It doesn't have a full-on app, for example, for you to help edit your videos, and it doesn't have the whole ecosystem. For example, YouTube has been around for a decade, right, and has yet to push out a really professional or slick or easy to use creator tool. But the way ByteDance, and it's not just ByteDance, but all Chinese video apps have thought about it is, well, what's the friction for people to come on and post videos? Well, if I made it easier for them to do so, then hopefully that just increases the conversion even a little bit, and that will help my platform get better content, in which case it will help me get more viewers, and then basically start this flywheel, this virtuous cycle of better content, more creators, more viewers, whatnot, right?
And you have some other conclusions that you've put in, but I think we'll leave it to our viewers to go and explore those on their own, because it is such a great piece that we encourage them to read. I think one big question we have kind of wrapping up today is what's next for DouYin, what's next for TikTok, and potentially, if you're comfortable talking about it, what's next for ByteDance. There's been a lot of speculation about a potential IPO for the company, but also, when we think about functionality and the apps and kind of where things are headed, you've done an amazing job explaining where we are now, but do you have any insight into where the company's going and where the apps are going?
So I would say for DouYin, we can see very clearly that right now the focus is on live streaming, and there's a huge push towards e-commerce. And e-commerce is actually doing really, really well. Think about what I think is happening in the near term, and then in the long term, I think we can be very imaginative, because I think ByteDance is a very, very ambitious and imaginative company, right? It really doesn't draw any borders. So I would say for DouYin, we can see very clearly that right now the focus is on live streaming, and there's a huge push towards e-commerce. And e-commerce is actually doing really, really well. Monetization is going to come from the next stage. For TikTok, I think that's also very clear. There's still a lot of user growth to go, right? So it's not like the 700 million user app in China that it is here in the, or let's call it, it's not the mainstream app yet. Okay, so I think for TikTok, there's still a lot more user growth to go. Geographic expansion, as well as just deeper penetration into the markets it's already in. So while it's already fairly big here in the US, I believe the last stat they shared in last August was 50 million DAU. It probably still has a lot more penetration to grow.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing these insights. This is extremely useful.
Yeah.
And I guess as a final question for you, we love this report so much. When do we get to read the one about WeChat?
We're trying to work on a cadence of 6 to 8 weeks every report. So again, we're not going to do every app in China. We're just going to do the major ones. But if you have any ideas on specific ones that you want us to do next, we'll do next.
Okay. Cool. Well, we'll be eagerly waiting for that to come out. And again, thank you for sharing your time with us. Here in China, it's just about lunchtime, but in the Bay Area. It's already a bit late in the evening,
Yeah.
so we really appreciate you taking time to talk with us, and really excited to see the future reports that you put out. And thank you again for your generosity.